on page 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 of the Daily today. And here's what Gen Z parents feel about the protest. All right, policing the police, how youth are fixing rogue officers, revelers chant anti-government slogans in bars, judge calls on government to listen to the cries of Kenyans. President says he admires their courage, willing to listen to them. Anti-finance bill protesters demonstrating outside SK Church of Christ can be seen here. The King Pro Cathedral in Nyahururu, Nyandarua County. President William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua attended the service. We'll just give you that news. And this is how they came out in force yesterday to protest against the finance bill, and one also hoisting the flag of Kenya up in All Saints Cathedral, or that is Holy Family Basilica, I should say. And you can follow this story inside the publication today. Also, tea candidates splash millions. Tea election campaigns for directorship positions have entered their home stretch, and candidates are crisscrossing the 54 KTDA factories across the country and splashing millions of shillings. This story is tucked away on page 11 of the Standard. Kogalo crowned KPL champions. Gor Mahia were crowned champions of the FKF Premier League for the 21st time, following their 4-3 victory over Bidco United yesterday. You can follow the story on page 29 of the Standard. Let's look at the teaser on top here. After Shakahola, religious groups report gathers dust, and this story is on page 10. You can see the face there of Reverend Mutava Musimi there. And of course, we know the president had actually tasked a commission here to try and investigate or just do a religious observation in the country, what is a survey, and give a report, especially after the aftermath of Shakahola. But we've not seen that report yet, and some of the reports that came to the fore as well are gathering dust. And this is the story that you want to follow on page 10 of the Standard. You know, the government also resumed exhumation of bodies from the Shakahola scene. You can follow the story on page 10. Clinical trials show hope for HIV vaccine. 10 ways imbalances affect your health. This is tucked away inside the Health and Science Pullard magazine. And Trump woos evangelicals in a vote hunt. That is on page 22 of the Standard today. This is how it looks. Let me try and just scoop over to where the Daily Nation is. Listen to youth, church tells state. Listen to youth, church tells state. That is what we have as a splash. Listen to the youth. The church is telling the states, and the flag there is security agents have also been warned against using excessive force on protesters. It's all about dialogue. Tax protest. The church leadership yesterday broke its silence on the ongoing mass protest against the Finance Bill 2024, calling on the government to urgently intervene and listen to the grievances raised by the youthful demonstrators who have expressed strong opposition to the controversial tax bill. Meanwhile, President William Ruto said he is proud of the young Kenyans and promised to address their issues. This story tucked away on page 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the Daily Nation today. And you can see also Mr. Cloud Mwambingu, who started donating blood in support of anti-finance bill demonstrators yesterday at Sikh Union in Nairobi. The protest resume tomorrow. You have a story inside on page 4 and 5 and 6 of the Daily Nation today. 3 men who will lead Kenya's police mission in Haiti. 3 men who will lead Kenya's police mission in Haiti. It's now official that Deputy Inspector General of Police Nur Gabo and heads of Operation Samuel Chebet and Geoffrey Otunge are the police chiefs who will lead the Kenyan troops in Haiti. The 3 senior police officers were notified of the decision by the Inspector General of Police Japhet Kome on Friday. Mr. Otunge is a Senior Assistant Inspector General of Police, while Mr. Chebet is a Commissioner of Police. You have a story on page 8 of the Daily Nation today. 1 million shilling. That is, the disappointments come with huge packs and benefits that include an allowance of between 1 million shillings and 1.5 million shillings monthly. School heads start annual conference. This is happening in Mombasa. That story is on page 2 of the Daily Nation. And Kenya's under 17 girls faced by baptism by fire The junior starlet handed two-time champions North Korea, 2016 silver medalist England, and 2018 runners-up Mexico in Group C of 2024 FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup that will be played in Dominican Republic from October the 16th to November. You have a story on the back page of the Daily Nation. Bring my son. Bijiwe's mother plead with state 3 years after security analyst Mwenda Bijiwe went missing. His family still awaits his return. Mr. Bijiwe vanished on June 12, 2021 while en route to Meru County to visit his mother, and he was abducted, disappeared. Until today, they're still looking for him, and the mother believes he's alive and is pleading with the government to release his son, or wherever he is, they should let him or let her know. Showdown Tuesday. This is what is on the front page of the People Daily today. Over 40 legislators propose amendments to Finance Bill tomorrow as young Kenyans vow to continue anti-protest that started last week. And you can see a section of youths from various churches in Nairobi protesting over the Finance Bill 2024-2025 yesterday, arguing it is punitive. The government has chosen not to uphold the rule of law. Every Christian is standing against all these taxes. This is one of the youth leaders protesting there yesterday. Also, MPs were bribed with 2 million shillings to pass bill, claims lawmaker. That is the story you want to follow on page 5 of the People Daily today about bribery that went down. And this is Juja, UDA MP, claiming, or yes, raising these accusatory fingers to him, MPs that were bribed with 2 million shillings each to pass the bill. And you have a story on page 5 of the People Daily. So if you have over 200 MPs who were bribed with 2 million shillings, then you can do your math. How much has really gone down to passing this finance bill? Musale's officials arrested, Press Secretary Salim Swaleh and others seized to help police investigate extortion allegations. And you can follow this story on page 4 of the People Daily this morning. The Star revealed the age crisis in civil service is what is on the front page of the Star today. More than a quarter of the workforce is made up of people aged over 50 years. This story continues on page 4 and 5 of the Star today. And Ruto says he's ready for dialogue with protesters. That story, you can follow it inside on page 4 and 5. Koome picks new commander to lead Haiti mission. And fuel prices increase looms. Fuel price increase looms as review of road levy starts. The government has formally, let me try and zoom in so that we can read together. The government has formally embarked on the bid to increase road maintenance levy, setting the stage for an increase in petrol and diesel prices. The Ministry of Roads has invited public views on its bid to change the law, which sets the levy at 18% or 18 per litre of petrol, not 18%. And you have the story on page 2 of this Star today. Forgotten why Ruto, Raila, NADCO bill, all bills have stalled. The newfound friendship between President William Ruto and opposition chief Raila Odinga, coupled with wrangles between the houses of Parliament and apparent lassitude, has stalled NADCO bills in Parliament. This story continues inside the Star on page 8 this morning. And also, AG Muturi's son goes missing in Nairobi amid abduction fears. You have a story on page 3. Cops deny arrest. You can read the rest of the details. Everyone was pointing this towards the ongoing demonstrations as well. Wanasiasa wanyamazishwa kanisani. That is a story inside the Taifa Leo. Makanisa ya Katoliki na ACK yaongoza katika kuharimisha viongozi kuchapa siasa kwenye madhabahu. Follow the story on page 2 of Taifa Leo today. Raila alenga ECOWAS kusaka kura za AUC. That story continues on page 2. And likizo fupi yaanza, walimu wakuu wakienda Mombasa. That story on page 3. Hili gozi la Italia dhidi ya Croatia ni moto balaa. You can follow the story inside Taifa Leo as well. Let's cross over to Business Daily. Parliament wades into secret public debt law boss hiring saga. Parliament wades into secret public debt loopholes hiring saga. Treasury given 60 days to replace Sirima in key office. PS Kipto says we have a candidate, but PAC guarded. The National Assembly has directed the Treasury to appoint a new Director General of the Public Debt Management Unit within 60 days amid secrecy over the hiring process that started in January. The Treasury and the Public Service Commission, while overseas hiring of civil servants, have been guarded over the posts that technically fell vacant after Harun Sirima's exit was announced in January. But Sirima had been in charge since 2018. Dr. Sirima had been in charge since 2018. The office is critical in Kenya's handling of public debt, including supervising the servicing of loans, which has emerged as a top risk for the country. You have a story on page 2 of the Business Daily today. Banks to get up to 3 years to meet 10 billion shillings capital threshold. That story continues on page 2 of the Business Daily as well. Kerosene up, or kerosene dips 39% on record high prices. That is the story 2 on the full on page 4. Kerosene consumption fell by 39.45% to 69.53 million litres last year, the sharpest drop among all the 3 categories of petroleum products. And why court dismissed Swiss firms bid in KEBS sticker tender. Australia, Canada, UAE, top Kenya dollar inflows growth. Economists see also the shilling weakening to 145 levels. Economists working with leading global banks, consultancies and think tanks now see the shilling weakening at a slower pace than earlier projected. You have a story on page 14 of the Business Daily this morning. And also a standalone picture here of Gen Z taking finance bill protest to church. Young people chanting anti-finance bill slogans at Holy Family Basilica in Nairobi yesterday. After attending mass, several church leaders appealed to the government to address the concerns being raised by the youth in the Gen Z protest. That story, you can follow it inside the Business Daily. Let's cross over to Uganda. Game of Thrones is what is on the front page of the Daily Monitor this morning. Impunity. Days after President Museveni blew hot in a renewed war on graft. Parliament Speaker Anita Among, already sanctioned by foreign governments over corruption claims, tells Luengo constituents that Mr. Museveni, quote-unquote, has heard your cries about woman MP Sisi Namuju, remanded alongside 2 others to prison on corruption charges. You have a story on page 4. This way, that way, Museveni, he says, quote-unquote, we're going to stamp out corruption. I don't know how. They forget that we have got a lot of power and capacity which we shall use if necessary. These corrupt people insult our heroes. They have now attracted our full attention. We shall crush their treachery. This is really betrayal, and we are going to finish it. That is Mr. Museveni speaking. And also, among the president has heard your cries, where you say that when your child misbehaves, you beat and say, go back and do something good. And you're better off having a child, even if she goes and eats something, so long as she brings some back home. That Sisi Namuju, currently on remand on corruption charges, is going to be your woman MP forever. This is Speaker Among saying this. You can follow the story inside the Daily Monitor if you're waking up in Uganda. 40 years of Watoto Church. All right, also that is on page 3. Travelers warned of strong winds on Lake Victoria. Operators of small aircrafts and boats have been told to postpone travels on and above Lake Victoria after strong winds were forecasted this week. The Uganda National Meteorological Authority forecast shows that there could be strong winds and waves on Lake Victoria this morning that could have a disastrous impact on small vessels. There, you can follow the story inside the Daily Monitor. And why Tanzania is wooing global mining giants. The government is eyeing the development of a last 4 large-scale mines by 2030 and is currently in talks with 6 mining multinationals, according to the Minerals Ministry's Permanent Secretary. This story continues on page 2. 10, that is the mining sector, currently contributing 10% to GDP, up from 7.2% in 2020-2021. CCM in Zanzibar proposes Mwinyi term extension. CCM Deputy Secretary General Mohamed Said Dimwa has announced that the ruling party in Zanzibar has endorsed a proposal to have the tenure of the actual President Hussein Ali Mwinyi extended from 5 to 7 years. You have a story on page 3 of the publication today. He deserves to lead the country for 7 years to preside over comprehensive economic and social transformation. This is Dr. Mohamed Said Dimwa, CCM Deputy Secretary General, Zanzibar. Alama's crop pest develop resistance. That is another story inside the Citizen as well. New times in Rwanda. What do we say? They say, good morning in Rwanda. Inside Rwanda's 7 trillion shillings, 7 trillion Rwandan francs, I should say, agriculture strategic plan, the government is expected to contribute more than 3.3 trillion Rwandan francs of the total amount. This story on page 3 of the publication. Rwandans will on July the 15th choose unity. This is what Kagame is saying. Kagame, chairman and flag bearer of RPF in Kontanyi, greeting thousands of residents during the second day of the campaign trail at Gisa site in Rubavu district on Sunday. Kagame said that the mutual trust between citizens and the leadership has been the cornerstone of what the country has achieved over the past years. You can follow the story inside the publication today. PSD advocates for lower interest on loans to attract more investments in agriculture. That is on page 2. The untold tragedy of Rwandan colonial metric 6 decades later. That story on page 4 and 5 of the New Times this morning. The East African this week. Aloof Congo frustrating its EAC peers is a splash. Aloof Congo frustrates its EAC peers. Kinshasa's lackluster participation in bloc failure to remit dues leaves many wondering if it wants out. You have a story on page 8 and 9 of the publication this morning. Voices of the people. Youthful protesters march in Nairobi Street picketing at punitive tax proposals in the Finance Bill 2024 that is on June the 20th. And Somalia wants AU troops exit staggered. Concerns about creating a security vacuum cited as army shows up defenses against Al-Shabaab militants. You have a story on page 3 of the publication. And recovery plan. KQ rules out share sale. Airline CEO Kilavuka says they are seeking a strategic partner to inject capital, not a buyout. That is the story that you have it inside the East African this week. Let's see what the China Daily is holding for us today. FITZ network brings benefit to foreign firms, trailblazing Hainan trade zones among nations' models of high-quality growth, and STEM students harassed by border officials in the U.S. Cooperation frameworks serve as guide to Sino-Arab shared future. That is a publication today. The Economist this week has a special issue. Dawn of the Solar Age. AI and War, a report card on Milei's reforms. China in Arctic, the champagne boom, all that tucked away in the latest publication of The Economist. The weakest world is here, a cut above. Why surgeons are the most trusted healthcare operators. This is the Newsweek, the latest publication as well. Fight to end child marriage as well is on. You can read all about it inside the publication. And the week, that is the US publication, or the US edition, World Accelerator. How Musk's $48 billion pay win is fueling superstar CEO compensation plans. All that tucked away inside the publication as well. Back to the Standard. Make sure you grab a copy of the Standard to give you all that story regarding the revolt that continues this week apace, and after also the Shakahola religious groups still, they have not, the reports that have been submitted are still gathering dust on the shelves. Those are your dailies this morning. Of course, keep it or take a daily that really floats your boat. We want to introduce our guests who are here this morning. Holding court this morning with Wilson Sossion, who's the CS Tourism. Also, we have with us Dr. Makali Muli, who is a Member of Parliament, Kitui Central. Also, Dr. Nikal, who is a Member of Parliament, Seme, and also member of a Health Committee in the National Assembly. And also, Dr. Makali, member of the Budget Committee in the National Assembly as well. Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning.
Sesson, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Also, Dr. Makali, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Ba.
It's another week after a very eventful last week. But we want just to begin and get a highlight from you as well, how it was in the House, just to get a snippet. of how people are reacting from Kitui, how people are reacting from Seme as well. Good morning.
Hi, Dibala. Good morning, viewers. The week, as you say, Dibala, was very eventful. A lot of things happening. The week started with all members of Parliament getting messages from the Gen Z saying no to the finance bill to all the members of Parliament. And there are also some who send some threatening messages. They will tell you, vote yes and make sure you don't come home. Vote yes and we will see you later. Some would even say, vote yes and we'll be in your house. And our colleagues who are female members of Parliament also got some messages. You saw what Honorable Millie said. They got also very interesting messages. Some of these young guys went beyond what I would imagine a finance bill. And some started suggesting other things. So generally, the week was not easy for us as members of Parliament.
What did Millie get?
And I did mention that we might not want to say it, but I think some of us were really under fear what would happen. Despite me and him being on the tele every day saying we are voting no, we also got thousands of messages. So I wondered whether these young people watch some of these programs. But when it came to the voting, as usual, we did put a very spirited fight, but we lost. So the numbers count. So we did our best to educate our colleagues from the other side to make sure that they don't vote yes for the bill, because what we are saying is the committee had actually done a good thing. They had made some positive move to leave some of the controversial issues out of the bill. But you know, so they brought on board also other issues, which, you know, out of their report, the recommendation they were saying they would want the House to pass, were even making things worse, and that's what we were telling them. But all said and done, at the end of the day, we lost, and we accepted. But now, this weekend I was in my constituency, and I can tell you for sure people are very unhappy with anybody who voted yes. And it was evident from what you saw all over the country. Some members of Parliament could not even address either church congregation, could not address their people wherever they were. Then you remember a number of TikTok, the short videos were also broadcast. Some were saying, wewe ni ng'ombe. You saw those things, wewe ni ng'ombe, where members of Parliament who voted yes were being brought, and that was very interesting. Wewe ni ng'ombe, sijui ng'ombe to do what. So a lot of things happening. And then yesterday was the climax of the issue, where you saw in Nyahururu, despite all the security which goes with the president wherever he goes, these guys are very daring, I'm telling you about. You could say they went to Nyahururu, the ACK church. The president was in the church, but the guys were out there chatting, Ruto must go. So it is taking the war to the topmost office in this land, that you are in there and you are telling you must go unless you address issues which have been brought up by the Gen Z. But I didn't really, to me, you know, when I analyze these young guys, and they are our sons and daughters, you know, life has become so miserable for them that they have nothing to lose. These guys have no jobs, they have no wives because they can't marry because they have no jobs. So the guy has nothing. It's only a degree they have in their papers.
Thank you. Let's hear from Dr. Jikala as well. Good morning.
Morning. Well, this weekend I didn't go to Seme, but I have a lot of information from Seme. We are always in touch with our constituencies. And before the voting, we were getting all messages, even people who are very close to you, who you think know your stand, were still telling you not to vote. Yes, and they were very serious, and it was all over. And though I didn't go, wherever there were functions, there were more people, like funerals and so on. And I was told that every time they confirmed that I voted no, there was an applause. So, well, what this thing means, the people of Kenya, through these young people, are saying no. This is not just the mood of the Gen Z. In my view, this is the mood of the country. This is the mood of the people. And the Gen Z have the courage, the technical skill to organize themselves and express their feelings. And it makes me actually now believe what I've always said here, that there are things that are natural. When the Constitution says that power belongs to the people, the sovereignty belongs to the people, and it can be implemented through delegation to leaders like members of parliament, it's still theirs. And I think this is what has happened. The people have actually taken over this. And if our parliament, I'm not even sure if our parliament to now, in the views of the people, are irrelevant. They are taking the matter themselves. And now you see, the people are not appealing to parliament anymore. People are now talking to the president. This has come to Ruto must go. Initially, it was reject the finance bill. So we have let this thing escalate. Had we listened and actually dropped this bill at the second reading, I think the situation would have been different. In my view, it is the passing the bill at the second reading that made this thing metamorphose to reject the bill to Ruto must go now.
All right.
People are now saying, now they don't even want, initially they didn't want amendment of the bill. Now we went ahead and said, okay, there could be amendment. And then when we go to the assembly and see if these amendments are actually well-intentioned, then we discover to our amazement that there have been additions. One particular addition, this bill was ending at clause 65. Now when we go to the amendments, there's a new addition which is clause 66, which is now actually increasing the price of fuel. And when we are talking in parliament to the members of the committee, they are harsh about it. They are not quite clear. They passed that, and the chairman is not saying clearly where that amendment came from. And if you do your calculations, that amendment was covering up all the funds, or most of the funds, that would have been lost if the other amendment had been carried. So in my view, the interpretation of the people is that these people are not sincere. So the amendments are now not sincere. We raised in parliament. The process that was used also wasn't proper. I don't think, and I raised it in parliament, it was proper. It was not proper that before the committee report came to the House, the Kenya Kwanza members of the committee and the finance chair went to State House. And so when now these amendments are coming, are they amendments of the committee or have they originated from State House? Obviously, you can find them in the report, but perception is important, because this was not at that moment a document to go to State House. We expected this document to go to the Speaker. The Speaker would go through it and then approve it. It would be tabled. Once it is tabled, it is a public document. Now any group can caucus and go with it anywhere they want. But this, in my view...
But not before the Speaker
not
sees it.
before the Speaker sees it.
Right.
So in my view...
That process propriety can be challenged as well. Yeah, if something was amended there...
I raised it, and the Speaker said that in the report itself, there is no evidence that anything changed at State House. Now, you see, when you start saying that, people saw, and you have to tell people what is it that happened there. So that, again, I think was a move that angered the people. And in my view, I think it's another thing that has shifted this thing from the reject the bill to Ruto must go, because people don't trust anymore.
Right.
And my view is also it may be the last thing that breaks the camel's back, as they say. It is this finance bill 2024. The Finance Act 2023 was controversial, and people said it was punitive. Other levies have come in, you know, and then there are a lot of things that the people thought the Hustler group would get. The Hustler Fund, what has happened to it? I ask my young people, have you got the Hustler Fund? Some say no, some say yes, but it's difficult. It doesn't seem to have had an impact. Unemployment, graduates, diploma holders. This time the people we are seeing on the street are very different. They are well informed. They have read that bill. They read the Constitution. In the social media, they were literally teaching people. I mean, I was even learning some things from them on that. And then look at what happened. Even when the doctors and the clinical officers and the lab technologists went on strike, the health workers strike. Again, people, these are young people. These are the ages of doctors who are now jobless, the ones who are doctors and they were being told they are not doctors. And then look at what happened to JSS. The JSS people, they are qualified teachers, and now they are told they are interns and paid. So a lot, look at IDs and passports.
We'll come to that. We'll come to
that.
You know. Thank you, Honorable Nyika. Let's hear from Susion. He's been amazingly patient listening in. Right, so it has really moved from a finance bill, now it is Ruto must go.
Well, that's quite artificial from where I sit. But one...
Artificial in what sense? What do you mean?
Very artificial. Where will Ruto go? If you want Ruto to go between now and 2027...
We are saying what the people are saying.
You bring an impeachment motion to Parliament. So that is precisely what I'm talking about Ruto must go. Let's focus on the finance bill and the budget. Those are key issues. And the finance bill and the budget shall be disposed of this week, so that then the process of implementing the budget can commence. But all the activities around it, like the Gen Z activities, yeah, that is expected, and it's provided for in the Constitution, Article 37, the right to self-expression. These young Kenyans are our own children. Professor Nyikal, you have the Gen Zs within yourself. Makal, you have the Gen Zs, I have the Gen Zs, all of us. These are our children, and this is our nation. All of us, without exception. Ruto included as president, you, all of us, this is our country. This is our motherland. And now, when these young men express themselves out of the narratives that have been developed around the finance bill, and the message is, stop the finance bill, drop it. So what when you drop it? And the president was very clear yesterday that this youth will be engaged, and true enough, they'll be engaged. And it is exciting, even from the background where I come as a teacher, when you see the young generation thinking hard about their country. It's a positive thing, very positive indeed. Only that things must be done in an extremely lawful manner, let them express themselves, and I think it has come time. All of us, if you went home, Honorable Nyikal, you still have a duty to the Gen Zs in your constituency. All of us we do. The issue of youth unemployment is not something that started the other day. It has been there. And the complicated economy did not start yesterday. It has been building over time. But now, when we focus on the finance bill itself is a revenue collection strategy.
Right.
It is. And
I just want to give introductory remarks because we'll get into it much, much deeper, right? So just to set a tone for the conversation. Just get introductory remarks, not to really analyze it right now.
Yes, I'm finishing. I'm not analyzing. I'm finishing just like that adequate time. The budget requires 3.92 trillion. The revenue collection through taxation now stands at 2.1 trillion. And it needs to be escalated to about 2.8 trillion and eventually 5 trillion so that we can finance our budget and all our services. And then when you look at the loan repayment, from this revenue that is collected, 1.3 trillion will go into repayment of loans. And within the space of the budget, 650 billion will go to education. So that totals to about 2.1, and it clears everything, all the revenue that is collected. So the truth is, and this is the truth that must go to Kenyan Gen Zs and the rest, that we have to raise enough revenue to meet the needs of the budget and also the economic transformation of the country that will create jobs for them. So the narrative should shift to not the collection of taxes, but what the taxes does. What should the taxes do? We talk about issues of corruption, wastage. Those are the narratives. Those are the issues that we should be discussing. And we should be questioning what really should the taxes be doing. And I would be very happy when Gen Zs, Mukali and all the rest will be taking the Kenya Kwanza administration to task on its transformation agenda, because part of this, most of this revenue will finance the economic transformation agenda being spearheaded by Kenya Kwanza administration. And this transformation is transforming the entire country, and particularly answering the question of youth unemployment. From the labor background where I come from, youth unemployment is a real challenge for this country. It is not going to be solved overnight. It is not going to be solved in one financial year, 2 financial years, or one period of a presidency, but it's something that needs to be fixed over time. And so I invite the commitment of all reasonable leaders in this country. Now we look at our country with sober minds.
Fantastic. And of course, we shall be looking at that, Honorable Makali, from 2023-2024 financial year. What is so discernibly different when it comes also to better, right? The the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. We want to find out, yes, we had also hue and cry from that particular financial bill. What has been so different that now you are touting this 2024, it will bring a magical wand and change the economy as it were moving forward, but what will be so different with it as well in comparison to where we come from? But let's just also lay the ground on how it went down yesterday. It was not a Sunday service like any other for President William Ruto when he attended the consecration and enthronement of Major Samson Mburu as Bishop of the SK Church in Nyahururu town, with the Generation Z running a campaign of occupying churches to disadvantage politicians. The venue where Ruto, his deputy Rigathi Gachagua, and their allies was not spared. Despite heavy security presence, Generation Z was undeterred as they chanted anti-government songs as President Ruto addressed the congregants before the leaders were whisked away by the security. Ken Kashu has more.
Inside Nduriri Primary School in Nyahururu, peace reigned as President William Ruto, his deputy Rigathi Gachagua and other leaders attended the consecration of Major Samson Mburu as a bishop of the ACK Church.
You are therefore to serve humbly, cheerfully, and in keeping with Christ's example.
Outside the venue, the situation was different. A group of youth who were part of a nationwide campaign dubbed Occupy Churches was gathering waiting for the opportune time, ostensibly to pass their message of dissatisfaction over the controversial Finance Bill 2024. The church had read the mood in and outside, Archbishop Jackson Olesapit announcing that only the president would address the congregation after being welcomed by Gachagua.
Our young people have stepped forward to engage on the affairs of their country. They have done a democratic duty to stand and be recognized. And I want to tell you, we are going to have a conversation with you.
But as the president was addressing the congregants, the youth, who were now in hundreds, sought to catch the attention of the head of state after being denied entry by the police officers who had been deployed in their numbers. After an unusually brief speech, President Ruto left the venue at a time some of the youth were already trying to force their way into the school through the perimeter wall. Other politicians also sneaked out of the venue in vehicles other than their own to avoid being targeted by the rowdy youth. After the leaders had left, the protesting youth had a message for the police on the nature of their protests. Ken Gashuhi, KTN News.
And President William Ruto broke his silence over the ongoing protest in major towns in Kenya over the Finance Bill 2024. The president, who was speaking when he attended a church service at ACK, as we've just established, Diocese in Nyahururu, said he is ready to engage the youth. This coming as the protesters remain relentless in the push to reject the bill that was approved by the National Assembly on Thursday. Our senior political affairs reporter Jeff Kiru has more.
After weeks of pressure in the streets, churches and even entertainment joins, President William Ruto says he is ready to engage youth, most of whom have been relentless in the push against the Finance Bill 2024.
They have stepped forward tribeless. They have stepped forward peaceful. And I want to tell them, we are going to engage them. We are going to have a conversation so that together we can build a greater nation. What I want to assure them is that we are concerned about their issues.
After the National Assembly approved the bill on Thursday, the protesters moved to turn the heat on legislators who voted in favor of the bill, one of the strategies being to deny members of the National Assembly and government officials an audience in functions including churches. A scenario that played out when President William Ruto attended a church service and the consecration of Bishop Samson Mburu at ACK Diocese of Nyahururu.
And they told me only President William Ruto will speak. I asked, what about myself? Wakaniambia, that is why we have come. Because we respect you to take in advance that you and the other people below the president, you not speak. Bishop Hapana. Sasa mimi na ni mtu mzuri. Mutanikataza namna gani? Na siku mlitaka kujenga cathedral nilikuwa hapa nikakuja na pesa yangu na rais. Aniambia hapana. We have seen a lot of toxic talk in churches, a lot of insults, a lot of people talking at each other, and we don't want that anymore.
Unlike in previous church events attended by the president, this time round, only the president and his deputy were accorded a chance to speak from the political class, and even intervention by DP Rigathi Gachagua to have one speak on behalf of the rest was rejected by the church leadership, perhaps to avoid a backlash that has been witnessed on the social media platforms.
Nipe tu mmoja lakini wewe hawezi haribu. Kwa sababu gani hawezi haribu? Ni mmoja wako. It's part of your clergy. Ni canon. Ni bibi ya bishop. Nisimpatie. Huyu nilikuwa nataka huyu Naomi wako. Kuja tu. Sema tu jambo just on behalf. Haya, bishop amesema hapana. Sasa mambo imekuwa kali. Haya, keti.
The bill that was approved in the National Assembly after 204 MPs against 114 voted in favor now sails to the Committee of the Whole House stage for consideration of proposed changes as mobilization for protest on Tuesday when Parliament convenes to proceed with the consideration of the bill also moves a notch higher. Jeff Kirui, KTN News.
The president on Sunday witnessed firsthand the fury of Gen Z protest when he attended a church event in Nyahururu, Laikipia County. The famous Gen Z movement continues to lead the nation with its Reject the Finance Bill protest. The demos are a new awakening in the history of protest in the country. Young men and women under the Gen Z age bracket on Sunday continued with the Occupy Church's protest against the Finance Bill. Our reporter Vermora has more.
A crowd of Gen Zs chanted outside ACK Church Nyahururu as the president made his way to church. Back in Nairobi, this was the situation at Holy Family Basilica when the Gen Zs were given a platform to address the congregation.
This bill seeks not only to overtax Kenyans, but also to promote oppression, which generally leads to a very poor quality of life for most people who are not as endowed as the people who are in power.
The support from the church as a whole is an important thing when it comes to ensuring the agenda of rejecting the Finance Bill 2024 is successful.
With their shoulders high, they remained on course as planned in their schedule.
Reject the Finance Bill. Reject the Finance Bill. Reject the Finance Bill. Reject the Finance Bill.
This is after Generation Z issued a notice that they will occupy churches Sunday 23rd of June 2024 to preach their gospel on Reject the Finance Bill 2024 and on the other hand, stop any politician that will take the stage. KTN took a survey across major churches within Nairobi's CBD and its outskirts. AIC Milimani along State House Road, a church frequently visited by top government officials. On this day, it was church as usual. Moving on, at All Saints Cathedral, there were no signs of political leaders with the intention of addressing the congregants. And if there were any, they were attending the service.
Number one, this is not a tantrum of Generation Z and whatnot. All of us are Kenyans. All of us are citizens. All of us are saying something. And all of us, we are not ignorant. And we're not crying crazy things. The second thing that I want to say is that the role of the church, it is to join our members. It is to hold the youth of our hands. Scores of the youth are getting lost. We need our elders to listen to us. All the money that they use, they should tell us, this one is going to be used for this. And we should be made aware because it's our money. It's not their money that they're using. We want to understand why a house that was built for 400 million needs 660 million for renovation. We want to understand.
All this happening at the church premises, perhaps a clear indication that the church is rallying behind the Gen Zs.
We are opening up the cathedral as a medical emergency response point. We'll set up, in partnership with medical teams, a medical response center with doctors, with paramedics, just to take care of any eventualities. Further, we will also be availing supplies for those who will need refreshments and water and such like.
At ACK Nyahururu during a church service attended by President William Ruto and other top government officials, ACK Archbishop Ole Sapit also had a word for the youth.
They are not enemies of the nation. They are our children. We love you and we welcome you. We want to discern what you are saying, and we pray that the Lord will give us a moment of listening to one another and understanding.
As the president made his way out of the church after praising the Occupy Parliament demos being peaceful, this generation could not bow for less other than they reject the Finance Bill 2024. And so they had a special goodbye for the president. Vera Mora.